Here in Ontario, hundreds of thousands of students could be out of school as of this Monday. School boards across the province say they have to close if a proposed union strike by education workers goes ahead, because the work provided by those workers is essential, according to the boards, in keeping students safe.
Our office administrators are the ones who are helping our students arrive to school safely. They call home when a student isn't present so that no student is lost. Our caretakers obviously keep our schools clean and ensure a healthy environment. Our special education assistants, they are helping our most vulnerable students. All of those services could never be replicated by teachers, even if they were in a position to be able to do so.
The Ford government and CUPE have agreed to resume talks tomorrow with the hopes of averting a full-scale work stoppage. But here are some of the major school boards preparing to close. The Toronto District School Board, which represents 582 schools and 246,000 students. The Peel Board serves 253 schools and more than 154,000 students in Mississauga, Brampton, and other communities west of Toronto. Boards in Windsor, Ottawa, and Waterloo have also announced closure plans if, of course, CUPE strikes. This is all unfolding in the middle of a federal election campaign, of course, and Ontario is one of the key battlegrounds with a number of very close races. So how could it all play out? CBC polls analyst Eric Grenier joins us now. So we're just picturing the possibility of 500,000 kids at home on Monday because of disagreement between the union and the Ford government. How significant is the GTA in this federal election?
Well, we've been talking about the GTA from the beginning, so it is really the most important battleground in the country. If we look at what the results were in the 2015 election, it really was the most important part of the country for the Liberals. They were able to more or less sweep the GTA. There's only those tiny little dots of blue in there, and winning all the seats in Brampton, all the seats in Mississauga, most of the seats north of Toronto and to the east. It was so key for the Liberal victory. And of course, they are banking on winning most of those seats again this time. And I think that they might be feeling they might get a little bit of help from the provincial government out of this.
Well, we know that they have, throughout many campaign stops prior to this campaign as well, constantly invoked Doug Ford's name, tried to associate the ramifications of the budget in April, the provincial budget, with the potential for Andrew Scheer to do something of the same. Mr. Scheer denies it, but basically that is the argument that we've heard. How key is the area for the Conservatives especially?
It's pretty much impossible to imagine a Conservative government led by Andrew Scheer without significant representation from the GTA. Because if we look at that same map of the GTA and we take the results from 2011 and put them on the modern borders of the boundaries of the ridings, you can see that the Conservatives won all of those seats except for that one little riding where the NDP would have won if it was the modern boundaries for the riding, and even won a few of those ridings in Toronto. So Andrew Scheer needs to replicate more or less that map, maybe not as many seats as Stephen Harper needed, because Andrew Scheer has a bit more of a possibility to win a few more seats in Quebec than maybe Stephen Harper did in 2011. But without a sea of blue around the GTA, Andrew Scheer will not become the Prime Minister.
And what about the impact of Premier Ford, of the Ford government so far? Like, what have you seen in the polls leading up to the campaign and for the first few weeks of this campaign?
Well, there's a reason that the Liberals are mentioning Doug Ford, invoking his name whenever they can, because they know that he is dragging the Conservatives down. That when voters in Ontario think about a Conservative, they don't make too much of a distinction between Doug Ford and Andrew Scheer. We've seen polling that Doug Ford is one of the least popular premiers in the country. It can depend on the poll. There's been polls over the last few weeks showing 26 to 37% approval for Doug Ford, 37% similar to Justin Trudeau's approval rating, but nevertheless ranking him 8 out of 9 premiers tested. Only Stephen McNeil in Nova Scotia was less popular. So it shows how Doug Ford is an unpopular premier, and Angus Reid Institute had a poll recently, and it showed that by far, Ontario was the place where respondents were most likely to say that the provincial government is influencing how I'm going to vote in this election. So it shows that Doug Ford is a problem for the Conservatives, and this news is unlikely to help that.
A lot of parents watching the news over the weekend, I'm sure, and tomorrow, and a lot of politicians as well. Thanks, Eric. The CBC's polls analyst, Eric Grenier. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.